Everyone say hi to Tim Roberts as he slowly walks in. Right on time. All right, let's get to the agenda. Let's call this meeting to order. I think we have enough for a quorum. I don't know if anyone verified that. Nell, do you know if we? Seems like we do.
Yep. We got a quorum.
Okay, thank you, John. I hope everyone's had a chance to review the agenda. And if there's no changes needed, if I can ask for a motion to get the current agenda approved.
Guys, for lack of a motion.
This is Brian. I'll move approval of the agenda.
This is Gail. I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second on the table to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, agenda approves. Okay, let's move on to our public comment period. Do we have any public comments for items that are not currently on the agenda? Okay, I'll take that as a no. I can read the room. I hope everyone's had a chance to review the meeting minutes from our September 15th meeting. And if there's no comments on those, then I will also welcome a motion to get those meeting minutes approved.
This is Jason. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Jason. Do we have a second?
This is Brian. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, terrific. Item approved unanimously. Okay, John, Board of Directors report, please.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we had quite a few items at the last board meeting, which was held October 12th. Under the action items, we got approval of the transportation electrification and infrastructure study. And again, it is a study and not a plan. That is available as a resource for any of the jurisdictions that is looking forward to doing any sort of electrification infrastructure. Additionally, I will note that the Colorado Clean Cities, I think, just sent us an email, Danelle, where they have some grants available. So that's another resource. If anyone's interested in doing it, let us know and we'll get you whatever we have. They approved the UPWP amendment number 2 to go out for public comment. And I know that's going to be in the paper.
It's been in the paper and is posted on our website.
So, and again, I think that's one of those things that will probably run through the process rather quickly because all we're really doing is making sure there's transparency for the stuff we're already doing. The board approved the resolution for the procurement of the traffic data services. As it's running through the process now for the UPWP amendment, because that, if you recall, is how we weren't going to put it in the tip. We were going to run it through UPWP. Oh, well, I have to be very quiet. Careful what I say now. So if you recall, we have to have that sort of approved. So that will run through the process, but we're going to be ready. And I think we'll have that ready to go. And Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong, we have approval from CDOT. As long as we don't spend any money, we can start the procurement process. So we're actually going to be doing that now concurrently. So that way, hopefully in December, when everything is passed, we will just pull the trigger and make the purchase.
That's what I understand too. This is Kathleen. Thanks.
All right. And then finally, we've got the congestion management process also released for public comment. And again, you've all seen that here at the previous TIP meetings. I believe that is it for the Board of Directors report. And Mr. Chair, I know we don't have an item for introductions, but we've had a lot of turnover in a lot of places. And so there might be some folks that are on the call for the first time representing jurisdictions or not. So I don't know if it's appropriate. Maybe we could just say it's a continuation of the public comment period to do introductions, or if everybody knows everybody, and I'm the only one that's a little kind of struggling with some of the names, that's fine. But I wanted to point that out to you. If you wanted to go back and do that, it probably would be appropriate, but not necessary. That concludes my report. That's all she wrote.
Thank you, John. I think that is a good idea. This is always where it gets awkward because everyone tries to speak up at once.
Yeah, if I might offer, what we can do is maybe do the folks here in the room first, so that way the folks online gets to know the people that they see on the screen. And then what we'll do is, because our screen is fixed, provided people don't turn on or off their cameras too much, then we'll just go ahead and call on them, ask them to turn on their microphone and their camera if they so desire, just to kind of say howdy and what jurisdiction they're with. And we can run that for you as staff, Mr. Chair, or now that it's a little bigger, you can call on each name, but however you want to do it.
Do you want us to go around the room here, you think?
Yeah, I think so. That way
Okay.
they get us some idea.
Hi, everyone, to our new visitors. I'm Dole Grebenik. I'm the city engineer for Manitou Springs and the chairman for the TAC.
Hi, I'm Lachelle Davis, CDOT Region 2 Local Agency Manager.
Matthew Pettit, CDOT Region 2 Local Agency.
Kathleen Collins, CDOT Statewide and Regional Planning at CDOT HQ.
Tim Roberts, City of Colorado Springs, Traffic Engineering. I'm serving as an alternate today.
Jason Dosh with the town of Palmer Lake.
Danelle Miller, Senior Transportation Planner here at PPACG.
Jason O'Brien, Transportation Planner, PPACG.
John Lusados, Transportation Director, and I don't think a camera hits them, but we've got Jared Werner, our Public Involvement Officer, is coming up on a month, right? And then Phil, whatever Phil's last name is, Roy. How could I forget? It's like the hockey player, but not pronounced correctly. So and Phil's there as well. So with that, Mr. Chair, do you want me to go through the screen, or do you want to do it? Oh, and dressed as a pillar, we also have Will Mast. Sorry, Will, I didn't see you.
Brian, you're at the top of my list if you want to start.
All right. Hi, everyone. Brian Vituli. I'm the Transit Planning Supervisor with Mountain Metro Transit in the city of Colorado Springs.
Gail, you're next on mine.
Gail Servant, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Colorado Springs, and I am a voting member today.
Kristen, yep.
Hi, everyone. Kristen Kenyon, Federal Transit Administration.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. I see Phil next from CDOT.
Hi, Phil Von Hake. I work with Kathleen in multimodal planning at CDOT HQ.
Hi, Phil. Jeff Manchester. We'll come back to him. We all know. Well, go ahead, Wendy Pettit.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wendy Pettit, CDOT Region 2 Planning. I'm homesick today, so my hair is in a ponytail and I have no makeup on, so there's no way I'm turning on this camera today.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, Ben Sheets.
Ben Sheets, City Engineer, City of Fountain.
Thanks, Ben. Amy Kelly.
Hi, everyone. Amy Kelly from the Air Force Academy. I am convalescing on the couch this week with a knee injury, so also not entirely camera ready, but nice to see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Jacob Kirschner.
Good afternoon. Jacob Kirschner. I'm a performance analyst at CDOT HQ.
Thank you, Jacob. And then looks like Pepper, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pepper Whitliff. I'm with CDOT. I'm filling in today for Matt Jagow he's the faster asset manager. So I'm just taking his place for the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Pepper. Scott Asher.
Hey, everybody. It's Scott Scott Asher with Wilson and Company, just sort of listening in, seeing what's going on.
Okay, welcome, Scott. William Johnson from CDOT.
I'm William Johnson. I'm with the Division of Transportation Development. I'm the Performance and Asset Management Branch Manager, and I also didn't put any makeup on.
Thank you, William. Okay, Ashley Brem.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Brame with MMT, City of Colorado Springs.
Hi, Ashley. Welcome. Casey Fortman.
Hello, everybody. Casey Fortman, GIS planner with PPACG.
Hi, Casey. Victoria Chavez.
Hi, Victoria Chavez, El Paso County Principal Transportation Planner.
Thank you, Victoria. And then Lan, so Rao.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Lan Rao, City of Colorado Springs, MMT, Transit Administrator, currently acting manager.
Okay, great. Lan, thanks.
Thank you.
And then we have Jason with PPACG, which we've already introduced. And I don't know if Jeff Manchester, you want to chime in real quick, or we can continue with the meeting if you're. He might have stepped away for a minute.
Or he had to call in.
Oh yeah, sure. Who just joined us by phone?
This is Jeff Manchester, Deputy County Engineer with El Paso County. Sorry, I had no audio a minute ago.
Okay, Jeff, thanks. Welcome. Okay, if we can go back to the agenda. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. It's a good idea.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much for doing that. You can't tell the players without a scorecard, and we've changed some players, kind of like the game right before the trade deadline, right? There's a lot of people coming and going.
That's right. Okay, on to our one and only action item, the fiscal year tip amendment number 3. Danelle, if you'll lead that for us.
Yes, absolutely. So today we have several items that are requested to gain funding that are CDOT items. And there's one adjustment made for reconciliation. I included it in this because it's one of the projects that we are adding funding to, but there were 2 projects in the tip that were same project, but 2 project numbers. So I combined those. If you go to, Phil, if you scroll 2 pages down to page 7, this is the list of funding additions from CDOT. And I believe there are some CDOT folks on the phone to talk about any of these specific projects if you'd like to look at them in depth. But these have all been added to the tip in draft form. Would you like me to walk through each one?
Unless someone says something, just keep rolling.
Okay.
One question. Was this all, this is Gail Servant, is this all new monies coming through faster for these projects, or has money been diverted from other projects?
Yeah, this is Pepper with CDOT. So this is not necessarily new money. We've kind of shifted money and shifted some projects to FY27, which you don't see on this particular list. But we were asked, the reason we did that mainly was because we were asked to find additional funding for I-25 Fillmore to Garden of the Gods. And we ended up shifting a couple projects. One was the I-25 median barrier for phase 5. We've shifted 85 in Maxwell to FY27. And we've also shifted the Mesa Ridge median barrier to FY27. We also made some other shifts with the Mesa Ridge Parkway median barrier and the South Powers median barrier to different years to provide that additional funding for that request in FY24.
Okay, thanks, Pepper.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for Danelle?
There is one other non-CDOT project that is part of this tip amendment as well. You may remember that when we decided on the distribution of the multimodal funding earlier this year, there was a project, an El Paso County fleet electrification project. It was selected for $1,050,000. So that was split 50-50 MMOF and local match, and it was set to receive the federal American Rescue Plan funding. Through some additional things that have happened, there's a bit of concern that it may not fully adhere to the intent of MMOF, which defines eligible projects as those that decrease vehicle miles traveled or increase multimodal travel. Essentially, because this project isn't directly benefiting the public, there was some concern that it didn't fit the funding source. So we kind of had a meeting with CDOT and El Paso County, and came to the conclusion that what might be preferable is to swap this with some carbon reduction funding, which you're aware there's a notice of funding availability out right now for, and then basically return that MMOF money to the pot here, and we would put out a subsequent additional an additional notice of funding availability for that money. John, do you want to talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, no, actually, I think you covered most of it, but since I always like to state the obvious, let me go ahead. Again, we were contacted by Michael Snow of CDOT and said, look, you've already adopted your tip. You're in. If you want to push back, you can. But basically, we're uncomfortable, especially as the reports move up the line and it gets reviewed by the state legislature, that this is a project that could get flagged down the line. And if it gets flagged down the line, then it's much harder to undo the knot and the ball of string to fix. So the decision was made, let's fix it now. So we went to El Paso County. We said, look, you guys did everything right. This is not on El Paso County. We had a little bit of a hiccup in our eligibility determination. Could you do this for us? El Paso County has been very gracious and has said, yeah, well, sure, we can mix to the other funds. I do want to point out that as a staff recommendation, there is a difference in the, and you correct me if I get this wrong, Danelle, there's a difference in the match requirement between the carbon reduction and the MMOF. And again, from our perspective, it didn't make sense to do anything that was outside the normal to El Paso County. So we are recommending that the projects get switched. And we're also recommending that El Paso County get the benefit of the better match rate versus the other match rate. I think one's like 80-20 and the other is 50-50. So they get it. So it becomes a win-win-win. They get a little more or a little less of a burden on their local match. The region avoids a headache down the line. And the money then from the original project, that MMOF, will go back through another open solicitation. And I know there's at least one jurisdiction, Palmer Lake, that would love to see the MMOF, but I'm sure there's probably a couple others. So that also then goes back to the region. So again, we looked at it as a win-win-win, but we do want to make sure that everyone understands that's just a staff recommendation. You could certainly do what you like. But again, I don't think El Paso County is under any obligation to switch the funds now. And we have been very thankful that they've been very accommodating, understanding our reasoning. I think you got Gail. Money, do you have a question?
Gail, do you have a question?
I do not.
Victoria, do you?
Brian
want
has
to? Go ahead, Brian.
So just a couple questions and a couple comments. You know, we are intending to be putting in for the full 5.7 million that's available in the carbon reduction program. And I guess a question for Victoria, is her ask going to be the same 525,000 for the electrification project, or what is the new amount, I guess, is what my question is.
If we do the split, let me find the page. Yes. If we did the split with the normal match rate, which is the 17.21 for carbon reduction, it would be 18,931 local and $91,069 for, wait, I take it back because that's just the pre-construction. It would be total of no. Yes. No.
I think the local match is
Yes.
180, and in the
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
before situation, it was
It was
more.
525. Yeah.
So it's still a $1,050,000 project, but it'll
Correct.
be 1721 to 8279
Yes.
match. Okay. All right.
Yes.
And so is that coming right off the top, or is, El Paso County required to submit an application? I mean, this is a new project too, right? It's not.
It is a project that has also already been, if we're talking about the project in front of it, it's a project that's already been approved and is already in the tip. So we're just swapping out the funding. So there would not be another application, and it would be off the top. Am I getting that wrong?
That is what we discussed to
Oh.
bring to TAC to make sure that was in line with everybody's approval.
Okay. Well, yeah, you can add a second entity for going for the returned MMOF funds, because this is going to come out of our project budgets for the two that we're submitting for CRP funds. So we would like to, somehow backfill that. So we'll probably be putting in for the MMOF money that gets returned if this goes forward this way, and that's what we'll be doing.
Understood.
And just, I guess another comment, we were all required to submit pre-applications, and, PPACG staff and CDOT staff looked at all of these projects, and, apparently they all were eligible at that time and went through this process. And I don't know, maybe we need to sharpen our pencils for the next round and make sure that we don't get into a situation like this again. And, if, I had to stand in front of the board when our projects were approved, and was kind of raked over the coals for two projects that were fully eligible. And this one slipped through without any comments. So it's kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, but I know it is a kind of a process that gets tweaked and improved every time, but we should keep that in mind for the next round.
We hear you, Brian. And again, this was not something initiated by El Paso County or initiated by PPACG. It's in response to CDOT. So we understand where you're coming from, and we will definitely make sure we're a little tougher on some CDOT folks. Not all CDOT folks. Most CDOT folks are pretty helpful, but there are a few that, again, unfortunately, we don't get all the information that is needed right up front. Was that diplomatic enough, or was that still a little too catty? But yeah,
It's
we
also
hear you,
a new
Brian,
project.
and I really have no response other than say I apologize that it happened. And obviously, you guys don't have to vote for doing it this way. We just think it's the cleanest way. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know where this is coming from, and so again, no fault being passed around. All of our CDOT folks and the PPACG folks, you're amazing. Appreciate what you do, but we should just try to eliminate stuff from this happening again. And I would support this and hope that El Paso County would support us going forward also.
We also don't have a lot of experience with projects like this, electrification of a fleet. So that's kind of a growing pain, I think. And speaking of that, I mean, we've been reaching out to manufacturers. I mean, we're hearing 2 or 3 years out. So some of these projects may need to be reevaluated. There's no way they're going to be spending money anytime too soon. Okay, Brian, thanks for sharing. Any other comments on what Danelle presented? Danelle, I think this is an action item. Is that correct?
It is.
If there aren't any other comments or questions on this, I welcome a motion to approve this as presented.
I'll move approval, Victoria.
All right, we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
This is Brian. I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other final discussions on this? Okay, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. All right, motion passes. Thank you, Danelle.
And I think just real briefly, now that we've said yes to that, there's the money that's going to be returned, the MMOF money. So again, I think that's a kind of be a separate email, but let's try to tack it on, because again, trying to hold folks harmless. If Brian's going after that money, I don't want to make it so MMT has to do a whole new set of applications. But at the same time, I want it to be an open process where Palmer Lake can now slip in an application because the money wasn't available before, and we can have a decision. So is everyone cool with that? That it'll be kind of a quick turnaround, but then we'll send something out that's saying, hey, we're going to tack this on to the existing NOFO. Always sounds like I'm street when I say that. That we do that way. MMT and doesn't have to do a whole new set of applications, but at the same time that allows Palmer Lake or anyone else, because again, I can't play favorites, and I'm not trying to, has the ability to go after those new funds that have been added back in the pool. Is that cool with everybody?
Victoria, it's fine with me. And we will not be applying for those MMOF funds. We're going to stay out of that ballgame. So thank you for allowing us to swap the project. But we will not be going after any of those MMOF funds that we're returning.
And Victoria, this is Gail, and all those funds you're returning, those were federal MMOF monies, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on the agenda, we have our CDOT standing agenda update item for anyone that would like.
Hello, this is Kathleen. I have a few announcements. First of all, Phil already introduced himself, Phil Von Hake. He's our new hire at the Multimodal Planning Branch. And eventually the plan is to have Phil serve as the liaison for Pikes Peak. He's also going to serve as a liaison for the other major MPOs with his air quality experience from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So we're excited to have him on board. The Freight Mobility and Safety Branch is still seeking to hire a freight planner, just to let you know that. DTR, the Division of Transit and Rail, has hired a new planner, David Mentor, and then a temporary aid fellow hire is Ruth Kadima. And then Region 4 and 5 have also hired new planners, Region 4, Deanna McIntosh, and Region 5, Tim Funk. And I have all this to send it an email to you as a follow-up. So, but just wanted to make that announcement. Also, the STAC leadership, they held their elections and they hold a 2-year term. And both Vince Rogalski, who serves as the chair, and Heather Sloop, who serves as the vice chair, were both reelected at their October 6th meeting. Let's see. This is the first time the Transportation Commission hasn't had an item from the Division of Transportation Development. So they took a tour of I-25 North this month for their workshop. In terms of grant announcements, the Safe Routes to Schools are open, the grants for those, and they close November 4th for the applications. The Transportation Alternatives Program, we're still waiting to figure out an approach for that, but we're getting closer. And so you'll hear more on that one. As John and team know, the consolidated planning grants and the UPWP documents have all been executed for all the MPOs. So that's good news. And then our Office of Innovative Mobility, they have several grants out, and that information was shared at STAC. But they're going to announce the grants in detail on October 24th. And then the idea is that the applications would be due December 9th of this year. And then there are a total of $560,000 available for these various grant programs that they have related to TDM and EV energy grants. And the only other announcement I have is that we have some award-winning winter-wise videos on our website that are something to try and inspire safe driving in the winter. Oh, and one more thing, the infra grant, we were awarded $100 million for the I-70 Floyd Hill project, and that had a ribbon cutting ceremony associated, I think, in the past couple of days. So those are all the announcements, and I'll send out an email to John and Danelle, and you'll be able to have that in writing as well. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Oh, sure.
So you kind of just sort of glossed over it, but you mentioned Phil was going to be the new Pikes Peak liaison?
Eventually.
Eventually? Okay.
As
So
he gets familiar, but I'll still be serving in similar capacities for invoicing and things like that, most likely.
okay, so
So
we're
we'll be a
adding,
team.
not subtracting. You're
Yep.
sticking around.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Because I didn't get a cake. I just want to make sure that we have plenty of notice.
No, I ain't going anywhere.
All right, good.
So Lachelle, Matt, Wendy, anybody else have any updates?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you, CDOT. Danelle, anything on the IJA updates?
Yes, there's been a few notices of funding opportunity released. The Chrissy Grant Program, the Smart Grants Program. There's an Advanced Transportation Technologies and Innovative Mobility Development Program. Thriving Communities Program. There's also, if you look in the packet on page 28, there's a link to the Rail Vehicle Replacement Program and the Culvert Program. Those two also got released last week after I put this together. So there are several new notices of funding opportunity out there from the federal side of things. And then also we included some information in here from STAC, as Kathleen noted, regarding the Office of Innovative Mobility Grants. So we included that presentation in here for you as well. It starts on page 30, Phil, if you're scrolling through. But there are there are a couple of different pots of money there. There is some TDM funds that will be available. And if you scroll through those pages, it talks a little bit about each pot of money and the eligibilities for those. There is an electrification and energy grant related to, there's two parts of it. There's a zero emission vehicle workforce development, and then there's an e-mobility education and awareness grant. And then toward the end of the document, I believe it starts on page 48, there's mobility technology grants related to connected vehicles and roadside units, onboard units. We had a question about this from Commissioner Williams from El Paso County. And we heard back from CDOT that this is a grant of equipment and therefore does not impact Tabor, although they recommended that any jurisdictions going after this review that with their individual attorneys and Tabor experts. So we just wanted to kind of include that information for anybody who might be interested in it. As Kathleen said, that's going to open on October 24th. There's going to be a webinar on, I forget what day. It is the 9th. The 9th of November. I have the link to that. If anybody wants it, let me know. I will forward that on to you.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just add real quickly. So as far as the sort of the workforce development thing, the examples I used were that if a community college or four-year college has a program on servicing or becoming an EV mechanic or a mechanic of Priuses, that kind of thing, that sort of thing would be eligible. So we've passed on the PowerPoint to Pikes Peak Stakes College, so they're aware of it, provided they open their emails. I could come across as spam, so maybe they're not. But we also reached out to UCCS, and they, I believe, are interested in seeing if they can secure something for the cybersecurity of autonomous vehicles that is also included in the grant. And so again, and then Danelle already mentioned, as far as Tabor, we did ask about the impact, and because it's not, I believe their terminology was not readily converted into cash. Their assessment was that it has no Tabor impact. So for you guys that are interested in doing it, and obviously that we know the big guys are already sort of doing this stuff. So Colorado Springs, El Paso County, if you're interested in doing it and applying for those data units, you can probably do so. And again, just confirm with your attorney that it does not have a Tabor impact. And we're happy to forward any information we've received on to do that. But that is another opportunity.
John, this is Gail. I know I'm going to have a lot more questions about what you just said, but I'm not ready to ask them yet.
Sure. Just give us a call, and Danelle and I will walk through the stuff, and we'll forward you everything we have.
Yeah, I think I need to have somebody smart on the technology side in our team. So I'll see if I can set something up. Tim, maybe you can help me coordinate that, please.
All right. And if we're only looking for people that are smart in the conversation, just talk to Danelle. You don't need to include me, but I appreciate you making me feel good.
Talk to at CDOT.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, Danelle, pavement and bridge performance measures target setting.
Yes. So we have a pavement and bridge performance measures coming up here. You might remember that as the MPO, we are required to either support the CDOT targets that have been set or come up with our own. We have a few months to do that. But today we've invited Jacob Kirschner and William Johnson to speak to the CDOT updated targets that have just been approved. And I believe that presentation begins on page 59 of your packet. Jacob or William, are you ready to walk us through that?
Yes, I'm ready.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let me pull up the presentation on my end. Awesome. All right. So as already introduced, my name is Jacob Kirschner. I'm the performance analyst here at CDOT. Today I'm going to cover CDOT's infrastructure condition targets for PM2 of the national performance measures. Next slide, please. So do one slide up, page 2, please. Thank you. To start off, I'm going to give a quick overview of the national performance measures and then jump into the PM2 targets. Moving ahead for progress in the 21st Century Act signed into law in 2012 included several provisions that collectively transformed the federal transportation program to be focused on transportation performance management. In 2015, the FAST Act was signed into law, which provided long-term funding certainty for surface transportation infrastructure planning and investment. The FAST Act requires that state DOTs and MPOs set targets for and report on the progress of performance metrics related to the surface transportation system. State DOTs and MPOs are responsible for setting 2- and 4-year data-informed targets and for managing performance to make progress towards the targets they established. The national performance measures focus on 3 key goal areas, which are safety, infrastructure condition, and system performance. And so for the remainder of the presentation, I will dive into how data is collected for bridge and pavements, how targets were established, significant progress determination, and then examine how Pikes Peak area performed relative to other state MPOs. Next page, please. PM2 establishes the process for state DOTs and MPOs to establish and report their pavement and bridge targets. The pavement performance measures are the percentage of interstate pavements in good and poor condition, and the percentage of non-interstate national highway system pavements in good and poor condition. And the bridge performance measures are the percentage of national highway system bridges in good and poor condition. Next page, please. Pavement and bridge data is collected in a similar manner. For pavement, CDOT's pavement management program collects annual pavement condition for the interstate and non-interstate via consultant personnel. Condition data includes an inventory of pavement distresses such as IRI, rutting, cracking, and faulting. Pavement distresses are reported in 1/10 mile increments and are collected in accordance with federal guidelines. Pavements are then assigned a condition of good, fair, or poor based on pavement thresholds defined by the FHWA, which we will cover on the next slide. For bridge, CDOT staff bridge collects biannual condition data for all bridges in the state via state employees and consultant personnel. Structures are inspected and assigned condition based on the National Bridge Inspection Standards, which we will cover in 2 slides from now. Next page, please. The FHWA has defined the following thresholds to define a pavement segment condition. For a pavement to be considered good, 3 of the distresses must meet the good criteria. If 2 or more distresses are rated poor, then the segment is rated poor, and then all other combinations are rated fair. It is important to note here that pavement segments marked as a structure are not included in the pavement calculations. Next page, please. So moving back into bridge, CDOT assigns the condition of bridge using the National Bridge Inspection Standards. Bridges are assigned condition based on the minimum condition rating of the deck, superstructure, or substructure. Culverts are assigned condition based on the minimum NBIS rating. If the NBIS rating is 4 or below for any of the 3 bridge components or for the culverts rating, the structure is then classified as poor. Next page, please. National Bridge Inspection Standards are based on the NBI rating scale. Each bridge component is assigned a rating from 1 to 10. The lowest score amongst the 3 components for the bridge determines the structure's rating. And then for culverts, there's only 1 rating to determine the condition of the structure. Next page, please. CDOT staff uses the bridge and pavement condition data to help establish targets. Infrastructure condition data and other assumptions such as deterioration, treatment costs, and inflation are used to develop 10-year forecasts. Forecasts are generated through CDOT's Asset Investment Management System, which is the department's asset model. The forecast incorporates the effects of recommended lifecycle investment strategies, such as a series of treatments, preventative maintenance, rehabilitations, and reconstructions. CDOT then generates forecasts based on anticipated budgets, as well as higher and lower than expected budgets to understand the return of the investment. Staff then proposes PM2 targets based on anticipated budgets and condition forecasts to an oversight committee. Following that, targets are finalized through the approval of CDOT's executive director. And as Danielle was mentioning earlier, MPOs must establish targets no later than 180 days after the state, which gives MPOs until March 30th, 2023 to either support the state targets or establish their own.
So Jacob, can we interrupt you with a couple of questions?
Yeah, definitely.
So to your knowledge, is there any MPOs for this particular criterion, the bridge and pavement targets that are going on their own? I know that some do on safety and have the 0 death thing, but for these criterion, is there any MPO that's going off on their own?
Not to my knowledge. So far we've met with the Pueblo Area Council of Governments, and they are going to support the state targets. We still are awaiting the other MPOs, but all for right, the first performance period, all 5 MPOs supported for PM2 targets.
And on the off chance that somebody goes off on their own, and again, correct me with the right number. I think it's Performance Directive 16, but it could be Performance Directive 32. But that's the method by which you determine how to spend the maintenance dollars. So even if a jurisdiction went off on their own and put in much more stringent targets, the funding that is distributed by CDOT would be through that performance directive, not through the federal performance measure thing. So no MPO could gain an advantage in the funding picture by going by themselves is the question.
Yeah, Jacob, I could probably assist here. The primary funding that the state uses for this, John, is grouped in our asset management dollars. While it is a mix of federal and state dollars, we do consider it just one pot. But that pot is not necessarily thought of as a distribution to local jurisdictions. So should you choose to deviate or establish your own targets as an MPO, it doesn't change any of the funding that you are not getting already. You may be making a reference to either HUTF funds that, there's a percentage that goes to the state, there's a percentage that goes to local jurisdictions, or our MLOS funds. But those funds don't necessarily go towards infrastructure, like engineering infrastructure. They're more geared towards like true maintenance activities, in which case the priority would be on state-owned assets. I'm not sure if I really addressed your question there.
No,
too much information.
Yeah, no, I think you did, William. Thank you. Because again, I think this will be the fourth time I've lived through it with this board, and the question always comes up, well, is there any advantage to going on our own? And I always say that no, there is not. And I wanted to make sure that you guys agree with me that there is no advantage. The way money gets divvied up is based on the CDOT performance measure standard, whether that's 16 or 32. And that's how funding is distributed. And if someone has their own performance measures, they don't get an extra share of pie just because they're calling their situation worse than what it is based on everything else. So you've confirmed
it's not going to change your share of the pie.
Exactly.
That said, I don't mean to muddy the waters. It could provide you some advantages. I know across the nation, there's plenty of MPOs that choose to establish their own target. And, one of the driving factors could be that they're looking at improving the infrastructure for locally owned assets within their MPO. And that helps drive how they establish priorities, but really helps them, it could be have a discussion with voters. And, it paints a little bit different picture, more specific picture from your MPO, but also it allows you to demonstrate that you're successfully expending funds towards those poor assets in your MPO. So I wouldn't exactly say that there's no advantages to doing it.
I understand, and you didn't really muddy the waters. There's no advantage within the state the CDOT process. However, there could be advantages otherwise, and I understand that. But so I think we're good. So go ahead, Jacob. I'm sorry. So you're on to the next page there, I think. Significant progress determination.
Yes, please. Thank you. So moving into significant progress determination, the FHWA will determine that a state DOT has made significant progress towards the achievement of each 2 or 4-year target. If the FHWA determines that a state DOT has not made significant progress, the state DOT must create a report, which includes a description of the actions the state DOT will undertake to achieve the targets in the future. Financial restrictions do occur if more than 5% of the interstate pavements are classified as poor, or if more than 10% of the National Highway System bridge deck area is classified as poor. Next page, please. So on this slide, I have the first performance period results on the left and the newly established targets for the second performance period on the right. For the first performance period, CDOT was able to achieve 3 of the 4 pavement targets, just missing the non-interstate National Highway System in good condition target by 0.7%. CDOT was unable to achieve significant progress for both bridge performance measures. Moving into the second performance period targets, CDOT established for the percent of pavements on the interstate system in good condition a 2-year target of 45%, and a 4-year target of 47%. For the interstate system in poor condition, 4% and 3.5%. For the non-interstate national highway system in good condition, 42% and 43%. And for the non-interstate national highway system in poor condition, a target of 3.5% for both the 2 and 4-year target. For bridge, which is the percent of national highway system bridges by deck area classified in good condition, a 2 and 4-year target of 36%. And for the poor condition, a 2 and 4-year target of 4%. So the next 4 slides here analyze the performance of bridge and pavement for the state in each MPO. Starting off with the interstate pavement condition, the statewide percent of interstate pavement condition has remained relatively stable over the past 5 years. The state has begun to see a trend towards an increasing percent of interstate pavement in poor condition. For the Pikes Peak area, the percent of pavement in good condition has been declining over the past 4 years, dropping from 62% in 2018 down to 53% in 2021. However, on the other side, the percentage of pavement in poor condition has decreased from 3.3% in 2020 to 1.8% in 2021, which is some great improvement there on the poor quality pavement. Next slide, please. Moving into the non-interstate pavement condition, the statewide trend for pavement condition has followed similar trends of that of the interstate system. For the Pikes Peak area, the percentage of non-interstate national highway system pavement in good condition has hovered right around 30% for the past 5 years. For the percent of pavement in poor condition, Pikes Peak saw a large decrease going from 4.7% poor in 2020 to just 0.8% in 2021. Next slide, please. So illustrated here is the 2021 National Highway System pavement condition for the Pikes Peak area. Wanted to include this for reference. Later in the presentation, I will provide a link to CDOT's new pavement condition dashboard where you can explore current and historical pavement for the Pikes Peak area, as well as other geographic regions throughout the state. Next slide, please. So moving back into bridge, this table breaks down the bridge condition on the national highway system. For the past decade, bridges in good condition have been declining, falling below the first performance period target of 40% for the first time in 2021. On the other side, though, bridges in poor condition have been declining over the past 4 years, dropping from 6.1% in 2019 to 3.4% in 2022. For the Pikes Peak area, bridges in good condition has followed the statewide trend, which has been declining for the past decade. And for bridges in poor condition, Pikes Peak has hovered right around 2.5% for the past decade. Next slide, please. So here, just for reference, wanted to include this. This is a map of the Pikes Peak area bridges. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. On this slide, we have some helpful resources, which include the FHWA and CDOT's National Performance Measure websites, as well as also includes a variety of dashboards which allow you to explore CDOT's data. I want to thank you for your time. If you have any additional questions or would like more detailed information regarding the target establishment, please feel free to reach out to me. Are there any questions I can address right now?
Dill, this is Gail. I have a question when there's a chance. I don't know if there's folks in the room.
So Dole snuck out. So Jason, you're in charge. You're the captain kirk of this
absolutely, Gail,
enterprise.
go ahead.
All right. So thanks, Jacob. So when you go through all this on the, and I'm going to focus on the bridges here for which event, those are just in the CDOT system. Do you have compared, I mean, I know you showed those line bar graphs where you thought the region fell. I guess I was trying to figure out exactly what that was including, because to me, it looked like it was just CDOT assets, not any local assets.
Do you mind scrolling back to the map, please? Thank you. Jacob, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so it's all national highway system bridges. So anything that falls on the national highway system is included in the percentage here.
So there are city assets on there, Gail.
No.
There could be city assets, there could be county assets. Pretty much if for pavement, pavement and bridge, if it's on an interstate or a principal arterial or above, it's going to fall on the national highway system.
Okay.
Like if, correct me if I'm wrong, I see the Circle Bridge that's under reconstruction right now as a red.
That's Academy, but, oh, they're both, you're right, they're both on there, okay. But when we set these performance measures though, are they really just to be intended to be for the national highway system, or are we adopting those for our local jurisdictions as well?
Yeah, so we include those. So it's the local jurisdictions, they don't have to follow them, but we do include those we work with the local jurisdictions. We have a CDOT off system bridge program where we do work with the local agencies to make sure that we are trying to address bridges which may be falling into poor condition.
So do you have any of the data on that?
I do. I have a data available for every bridge in the state, which I can get available to you if you'd like.
Well, and I have the list, the off-system bridge, the eligibility, and I could pull up what it says, but I guess as far as data and how that rates in comparison for these performance measures.
Yeah, we have the CDOT bridge database. I can pull data from anywhere in the state or any MPO. So if you'd like me to provide data for anything, just go ahead and send me a request and I can get you that information.
Do we have any other questions for Jacob or William?
I do.
Yes, Tim.
So I know this is outside city's jurisdiction, but you have something on US 24, looks like west of Manitou Springs or right at Manitou Springs. Which bridge is that?
I'm unaware of which the bridges are.
Okay.
We could get that to you later. Did you have a specific question about it?
No, I was just curious if it's going to affect my.
Yeah. So Jacob had mentioned a web tool that we've developed that has this information that is externally available to you. I'm not sure if you had time for him to go into it, but this presentation does contain a hyperlink to it. And I'm not trying to say, hey, you can navigate it, on your own, but you absolutely can. But we'll get back to you with that.
All right. Thank you. Just make one more time. Any other questions for Jacob or William? All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 7D. Jason with the regional freight study.
Thanks. This will be more in the format of an informal chat about a study that we haven't started yet. I just like to pick the tech's brain a little bit if I can. We're going to be starting a freight study at the Pikes Peak region pretty soon. There's a couple reasons why we're doing it, just to give you some brief background so you know where we're coming from. First, most MPOs of our size are on their third or fourth or more freight plans by now. So we just want to be in the state of the practice and get a little bit caught up on that. We've also had requests from our member governments to help them show support for some of the freight related projects and plans that they would like to do. And the information related to freight that we have in the region, for example, our chapter in our long range plan really isn't sufficient to help show support on the level that would be needed for funding applications and the like. So we'd like to be able to have that kind of information on hand to help our members take advantage of state and federal funding opportunities, other grant opportunities related to freight in the future. What we've done so far is sort of an informal survey of existing freight plans and studies in the region. We haven't found any. Most what we can find is good general information like chapters in plans or studies, comprehensive plans. There's a chapter in our long range plan, our transportation plan, that really doesn't have the level of information that we'd need. And we also thought, in keeping with our recent trend doing this, that we would conduct a study rather than a plan, just because we're missing sort of some fundamental information about the freight system, identifying the system, what the needs and opportunities are. So we thought it would be great to just focus on that, to be supportive of funding opportunities. And maybe it could lay a foundation for something like a prioritized plan in the future if there's an interest in that. But right now, what we'd like to do is a study focusing on needs. It's a $100,000 study. That's what we have set aside. And those are our PPACG planning funds matched with state toll credits. So there's no local match coming from our member dues for this. We developed the scope that's in the packet that you've seen in cooperation with CDOT. And there's still some wiggle room to make minor changes. If anybody has seen that, would like to nudge it a little bit. If you have any ideas on that, there's still time to do that. Let's see. We might have another month or two. We don't have notice to proceed yet, although we're told we'll get it soon. So what we'd like now, or in the future, if you know this off the top of your head now, or if you'd like to call or email about it, is to do a little bit of information gathering before we start. So we know so little about freight in the region. There really aren't any of these plans or studies. We're not aware of any freight related advisory bodies of any kind now or in the past. So I'd love it if we could get some contact information, and we're going to do some of this on their own, but thought we'd ask the TAC as well. Contact info for member government staff who might have freight as part of their responsibilities. If you know the major private shippers of the region or freight related organizations that are active in the region, anybody else who might be good to interview for the study or possibly to serve on a temporary freight advisory body while the study's going on. Also, any existing freight plans or studies that I may have missed while I was looking around. Something like got past me. And that way we can hit the ground running when the project's ready to go and not be running around trying to find out who everybody is. And so I'd love to know that. And then one last little item is also like to know on what level the TAC would like to be involved in this. So it can be sort of a standard approach of, well, we'll talk to you once at the beginning, middle, and the end, or you can be more heavily involved if you'd like. And we think it'll take about 9 months. So we can do that, or we can just leave you alone until we have a draft for your review. Just thought I'd ask.
Tim, you have a question?
Yes. So I have a contact that we use for our truck route committee.
Okay.
Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I can send that to you.
That'd be great.
And then
did they just do truck routes or any other freight related planning or?
No, well, so with our designation of truck routes, he represents the trucking industry. So
okay,
he'd be able to get you in contact.
That'd be great.
Then it's been a while, but I thought Fort Carson had some type of study or analysis of routes. So that was a long time ago, though, so you may want to reach out to him.
Yeah, still something. Yeah. Thank you.
Kathleen, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say, of course, I believe you're already aware that CDOT's embarking on a freight study as well, and we're hoping we can piggyback, or you can piggyback with us in any way possible. So any data that we purchase for that study may be able to be shared for your area. We did our last freight study back in 2019. That has some good resources. It may not be specific to Pikes Peak, but it has a lot of good information in it. And so our freight branch can certainly serve as a resource. And also we have a freight advisory council, and we have a list of contacts for them in case I can check with Craig to make sure that he would be comfortable sharing that list with you, that type of thing.
Okay, great. And I think some of us are on those council meetings.
Yeah, I
the
think
Friends of the
you're-
Advisory Council. Yeah.
You're on the invite, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
but there
great.
might be some people we follow up with individually.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Thanks.
All right, thank you, Jason. Moving on to member entity announcements. Do we have any? Going once. All right, moving on to items for future TAC meetings.
I'm sorry, this is Kristen with the FTA. I'm so sorry to bother you. But I just wanted to call out to Jason and team on your Tri-County study. Thank you for sending us an update on that, and congratulations on completing that notable study. I just want to give a shout out to PPACG and team.
Thanks. We all appreciate that.
All right, items for future tech meetings. Danelle, can you help me out on that one? Since John left the room.
He did leave the room. We do have the safety target setting that will be coming up. And I can't think of anything else offhand. We will be bringing back the congestion management process and the UPWP, of course, after our public comment period ends, but our notice of funding availability, the draft applications are due Monday. I think there'll be a little bit of leeway there because of the MMOF situation. The final applications are not due until December, I believe. So I will send out those dates again and get you some information on those numbers as well.
All right, thank you. And with that, we will call this meeting adjourned.